Okay, so picture this. You walk into pretty much any major fast food chain in America, right?
Yeah.
And you're just uh, bombarded. The menu board looks like, I don't know, the tax code or something.
Totally. Hundreds of options, confusing combos, breakfast, lunch, dinner, all the specialty drinks. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
Hmm.
But then there's this one chain, and it's built around like
Oh,
four things. Aggressively simple.
Right. Chicken fingers.
Chicken fingers, crinkle cut fries, Texas toast, coleslaw.
And you can't forget the sauce.
Oh, absolutely. The famous cane sauce. That tangy stuff.
It sounds kind of niche, doesn't it? Like maybe just a quirky regional brand, a little southern haunt you stumble upon.
You'd think so, but
Yeah.
the numbers.
Wow.
Wow. The numbers tell a completely different story.
We are talking, of course, about Raising Cane's chicken fingers and the level of financial success they've hit. It's honestly staggering. It rivals the industry titan.
It's absolutely stunning. I mean, if you ask people just randomly, guess the most successful quick service restaurant in America.
Yeah.
But based on like sheer sales per store?
Which is the metric that really matters, right? Like, it shows customer loyalty, how well they run things.
Exactly. So, number one, people would probably guess Chick-fil-A. And they'd be right.
Okay,
But number two,
let me guess. Cane's.
it's Cane's. Averaging a massive $6.66 million per store per year.
Wow. 6 million.
Yeah. And that figure, it's more than double what most of the big legacy chains pull in. Think about that.
That intense focus, it really has powered an empire. Cane's generated, what, $5.1 billion in sales last year?
$5.1 billion just last year.
Which puts it, firmly among the fastest growing chains, one of the larger in the U.S.
And the company's valuation, it sits at a massive $22 billion.
$22 billion for chicken fingers.
Mostly chicken fingers. And here's the part that really defines the culture, the thing we really want to dig into today.
The founder.
The founder, Todd Graves. He still owns 92% of the company.
92%. That's almost unheard of at that scale.
It really is. And that ownership structure, it's key. That's why we're doing this deep dive.
Okay.
Our mission today is really to trace the journey of Todd Graves. I mean, this is a guy who was told repeatedly that his super simple focus concept was like fatally flawed.
Right. By his college professor who gave him a B- on the business plan.
A B-, and then by literally every banker in Baton Rouge who basically laughed him out of the room.
Uh-huh.
And he took all that rejection, all those no's, and he just used it. Used it like rocket fuel.
So we want to uncover the almost fanatical lengths he went to. I mean, working these brutal, dangerous jobs just to get seed money.
Yeah, the extreme hustle.
And the unconventional strategies he used, the non-negotiable standards he set, especially around quality and the culture, that's huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that's what allowed a B- business plan, this supposedly flawed idea, to become a $22 billion global success.
So for you, the listener, the relevance here, it's not just some business case study, right?
Not at all. It's more like a blueprint. Blueprint for how you can maximize impact through like extreme focus.
Graves proved that when you refuse to compromise on that single core promise, in his case, the perfect chicken finger meal, you can actually outperform competitors who are trying to do everything.
He used that chip on his shoulder, that rejection, to basically redefine what success looks like in the fast food world,
Yeah.
QSR space. Okay, so let's unpack the man behind this brand, Todd Graves. To really get the extreme success, you kind of have to start at the beginning. Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
He grew up there, 70s, 80s, immersed in what he talks about as that, classic Louisiana lifestyle, revolving around LSU sports, obviously, but crucially around food.
Yeah, his roots really show this mix, right? A deep appreciation for cooking on one hand and this innate entrepreneurial drive on the other.
Definitely.
He talks about growing up where Cajun culture is just dominant. And in that culture, food is love. It's family.
Totally.
He has these really vivid memories, like spending an entire Sunday, morning till night, just making gumbo with his mother.
Wow, the whole day.
The whole day. That time spent, the process, the care, that really cemented this idea for him, that food done well, with love, it creates community. That's kind of the emotional DNA of Cane's, I think.
And the business side, the entrepreneurial spark, that was burning really early too. He wasn't just like a regular kid doing chores.
No, not at all. He was running lemonade stands, sure, like lots of kids do.
Right.
But he quickly moved up, cutting grass for $5 a yard. But here's the difference, the analytical part. He wasn't just interested in cutting all the grass himself.
Ah, okay. So he wasn't just trading his time for money.
No, he was scaling. At age 10 or 11, he figured out how to hire other kids in the neighborhood.
Really? At 10?
Yeah. effectively becoming a manager, paying them a percentage of what he earned. He was learning delegation, accountability, building independence way back then.
That's incredible.
He was already grasping this core idea. You don't do all the work yourself. You build the system, you manage the people. And that mindset was absolutely crucial later when he went on to hire his first restaurant crew.
So fast forward a bit. High school, college. He's working in various restaurants. And this is where he gets his most crucial insight. But it was actually a negative one.
Exactly. He noticed that the environment in a lot of these places was just generally miserable.
Miserable how?
Well, he observed management that was focused only on negative feedback, just spotting what the crew was doing wrong, punishing mistakes, operating with, no music, no energy. It just created this genuinely poor vibe, which, of course, leads to high turnover, lousy customer service.
Makes sense. Unhappy crew, unhappy customer.
Precisely. He realized that the crew members who were unhappy were never going to make the customers happy. It's just not going to happen.
So he recognized he could flip that script. As a college student himself, he knew exactly what his friends, his demographic wanted.
Quality food, yeah.
Consistency.
And critically, a fun place. Somewhere fun to hang out or even fun to work.
Right. And around that same time, he was paying attention. He saw these emerging regional trends, concepts like Guffey's, Zaxby's. Okay, yeah. Chicken finger places.
They were demonstrating that the specialized chicken strip market was actually viable. It could work.
And this is where the light bulb goes off, the focused concept, the single idea that becomes this $22 billion empire.
That's it. Graves didn't want a huge, complicated menu like everyone else. He had this realization if they focus solely, like a laser focus, on the quality chicken finger meal, craveable and great.
Craveable. That's a key word for them.
Absolutely. If they focus just on that, they could guarantee perfect execution every single time. That intense focus became the non-negotiable core of the whole business.
Okay, let's dive into the operational genius of that simplicity for a second, because this is really where the business strategy separates him from, a McDonald's or a Wendy's.
Yeah, it's often counterintuitive, especially to business advisors, right? But having limited variety is actually a massive operational advantage, particularly in fast food where speed and consistency are absolutely king. Well, think about inventory. When you're only using basically 3 main ingredients, chicken, potatoes, bread, your inventory management gets radically simpler.
Okay.
You have less waste, fewer stocking errors, much better control over ingredient freshness because you're turning it over so fast.
Right, which means he can actually afford to buy higher quality ingredients because he's not wasting money stocking 40 different kinds of cheese or 5 different sauces he barely uses.
Precisely. And then there's training. Training gets way more streamlined too.
Makes sense.
Instead of teaching a new employee how to prep and cook 30 different menu items, they learn 4 items and 1 sauce recipe. That's it.
So they get really good really fast.
They achieve mastery faster, yeah,
Right.
which dramatically reduces mistakes, increases their confidence, their morale, and crucially, all the simplicity increases the speed of service.
The drive-through.
Exactly. The fewer decisions the crew has to make, the fewer steps in the whole process, the faster that drive-through line moves. And that efficiency, when you replicate it across hundreds and hundreds of stores, that translates directly into those staggering sales per store numbers we talked about.
Okay, all of which brings us, inevitably, to the infamous B-.
Ah, yes. The grade that launched 1,000 chicken fingers.
Right. He was in, I think it was a telecommunications class at LSU.
Something like that, yeah. And for his big business plan project, he partnered up with his longtime friend, Craig Silvey.
Okay.
And they poured everything into this plan. I mean, detailing every single aspect of the chicken finger concept, right down to the specific brand of toilet paper they were going to stock in the bathrooms.
Wow. That detailed.
It was his operational Bible, as he called it.
And the result?
A B-. Technically, the professor acknowledged the plan itself was, detailed and sound.
Right.
But the concept was gamed flawed.
Flawed. Worst grade in the class, right?
Worst grade in the class. And the professor's reasoning, it wasn't arbitrary. It was actually rooted in Southern culinary culture.
Which is all about variety.
Absolutely. They were in South Louisiana. Globally famous for Cajun, Creole cuisine.
Yeah.
People there expect variety, daily plate lunches, gumbo, po' boys, all kinds of regional specialties.
Right.
So the idea of opening a fast food joint that only serves 4 items, centered around plain old chicken fingers, It just seemed way too niche, too restrictive for that local market. The professor was basically judging the market opportunity, not the execution plan itself.
Man, imagine getting your worst grade on the very idea that eventually makes you a multi-billionaire.
Oh,
It's got to
yeah.
be a great story to tell in the office now, but at the time, that had to sting.
Oh, it did. But Graves, he kind of used it as immediate validation, like proof he was thinking outside the box.
Okay.
He developed that attitude really early on. He called it laser focus, and that young attitude that we weren't going to listen to anyone.
He needed that mindset, didn't he? Because that academic rejection was immediately followed by, well, financial rejection.
Yeah. The dreaded banking roadshow.
This detail always gets me. It's so illustrative of his, earnestness at the time. He went out, bought the cheapest suit he could find,
Uh-huh.
and an old briefcase
Uh-huh.
with the brass combination locks, convinced this was, the uniform of a serious business person.
Gotta look the part, right?
Then he proceeds to pitch every single banker in Baton Rouge.
And the bankers were, well, unanimous. They all said no.
They echoed the professor's concerns, I assume, the focused concept.
They did. That focus concept in a culture demanding variety, that was a big red flag for them. But they also had more practical, sort of legalistic reasons for rejecting him.
They looked at his resume, basically.
Or
lack thereof.
Precisely. The rejections were kind of threefold and pretty brutal. One, specialized concept, risky market. Two, Graves had no money, zero personal equity to put into the business. And three, this was the big one, they required a minimum of 10 years of verifiable senior management experience in the restaurant industry before they'd even consider lending for a startup like this.
Wow, 10 years.
Yeah. And Graves had worked in restaurants in college, sure, but he hadn't managed them at the level the banks were demanding. Not even close.
So they're basically telling him, cool idea, kid. Go work for a decade, climb the ladder, build a resume, then come back and talk to us.
Which is, sound advice for minimizing risk from their perspective, but completely useless for someone like Graves who believed his idea was ready to launch now.
Right. He wasn't going to wait 10 years.
No way. And that's the strategic lesson he took away. Instead of just accepting the rejection, packing it in, he internalized it as fuel.
The chip on the shoulder.
Exactly. He apparently politely thanked the bankers, but he left each meeting with this growing chip on his shoulder, telling them flatly, you're going to see my restaurant open, and I hope you're a customer. He was just determined to prove every single one of those gatekeepers wrong.
So, okay, zero capital, zero backing from the banks. Everyone telling them the concept is just too simple, too niche for Louisiana. Graves and his partner, Sylvia, they knew they had to raise the seed money themselves.
No other choice.
But first, they kind of solidified their commitment with this moment of just pure, youthful intensity.
The pseudo-blood pact. Yeah, this detail is actually pretty crucial, I think, because it speaks to the emotional commitment they had, beyond just the financials.
Right.
They were best friends, known each other since 6th grade, and they made this pact using a chicken claw they found at a flea market.
A chicken claw. Seriously.
Seriously. Apparently, they scraped their wrists, put them together, and promised each other they would see this venture through, whether it was going to be a monumental success or just an utter failure.
But they wouldn't quit.
They would absolutely not quit. It was a commitment to persistence, above all else.
That's some serious energy. And it's the energy that really defined the next phase, right? The hard labor phase.
Yeah. Rejected by capital, Graves knew the only way to get the money was through honest, hard, physically demanding work, the kind that offered high, immediate cash payoffs.
Which led him to his first really grueling job, working as a boilermaker in oil refineries.
Right. And for listeners who might not be familiar, a boilermaker, it's a highly skilled trade, but it's incredibly dangerous work.
Yeah.
You're building, installing, repairing these huge vessels, pipes, often in these industrial high-pressure environments.
And he was specifically doing turnaround shift work. Can you explain what that involves and why it was, so lucrative but also so risky?
Sure. So a turnaround shift happens when a refinery or a plant has to temporarily shut down for mandatory maintenance, cleaning, upgrades, repairs.
Okay.
This work is intensely concentrated. It's done under extreme time pressure, often running 24/7 until that facility is back online.
Wow.
So Graves was enduring these long, hard, hot shifts, like up to 16 hours a day, inside these massive refinery towers, working with welding irons, blowtorches, and just extreme heat. The risk of serious injury is just constant.
Sounds brutal.
But because the work is so crucial, so time-sensitive, the pay is very good. That was the draw.
But something really interesting happened there. Something he didn't get from the bankers or his professor?
Yeah, the guys he worked with, the other Boilermakers, they were actually the first ones to truly validate his vision.
Really? How so?
Well, they saw his work ethic, right?
Hmm.
His sheer relentless grit. They saw this kid who wasn't afraid of 120-degree heat or dangerous tools, just completely driven by this goal.
Okay.
And they told him explicitly. They said, because we see how hard you work, how committed you are to saving every single penny, we believe you're going to make that chicken finger restaurant work.
Wow. That must have meant a lot.
Huge. This was real-world validation. Proof that his grit, not his college degree or business plan, was his real equity.
But even that incredibly tough work wasn't quite enough to hit the capital goal he needed.
Right. So through a fellow Boilermaker, a guy nicknamed Wild Bill Torr, he heard about another opportunity. Even more high risk, high reward, Alaska.
Alaska. Doing what?
The Sakai salmon fishing trade.
Oh, man. Fishing in Alaska, that sounds intense.
This was the ultimate hustle. He travels all the way up to Alaska for the short, highly dangerous summer peak season. See, the Sakai salmon run is intensely focused. You basically have to work every possible hour while the fish are running. There's no downtime.
So what does that mean practically? How long are the days?
Graves was working 20-hour days on the boats.
20 hours? How do you even function?
You barely do. He said he was snatching maybe 45 minutes of sleep here and there because the moment the nets come in, everyone has to be ready. The physical exhaustion is just monumental.
And he wasn't exaggerating the danger, right? This wasn't some scenic fishing trip for tourists.
Not at all. He described this environment of, like, aggressive competition and just real peril.
Like what?
He talked about other boats literally ramming them in competitive fishing zones, trying to push them off the fish. And he heard reports over the radio constantly of people dying, either getting thrown overboard with the nets or crushed by equipment on deck or just drowning in the rough seas.
Jeez.
He was literally risking his life for the chicken finger dream, using his own body, his physical labor, to raise that initial capital. It's kind of hard to imagine a venture capitalist taking that kind of risk for seed funding, you know?
No kidding.
Yeah.
That level of physical dedication, that risk, that's what kept him going, I guess, when every morning probably felt impossible.
Yeah, it wasn't just about the money anymore. It was proof to himself that he was willing to go further than anyone else for this idea.
And eventually, the payoff came.
It did. After about a year of these two incredibly brutal jobs, the refinery, the fishing boats, he managed to scrape together approximately $50,000.
$50,000.
Yep. And when he returned home to Baton Rouge, the dynamic with those potential investors, with the banks, it had completely changed.
Why the change? I mean, 50Ks isn't a massive sum in the grand scheme of starting a restaurant. What did it signal?
It signaled commitment.
Yeah.
And self-reliance. When they saw that this young guy, the one they'd basically laughed out of the room a year before, had actually gone out, stuck with the idea, and literally risked his life to raise his own capital, they realized this wasn't just some fleeting college dream.
Okay.
That act of radical self-financing, that was his equity, that commitment, and that finally unlocked the doors. It got him the necessary Small Business Administration loan, the SBA loan, and the initial investor money they needed to finally secure that first location.
And that first location, the mothership, it was secured. A perfectly dilapidated spot right near the LSU campus.
Yep. Known locally as a location where tenants just constantly failed. Business after business went under there.
A bit of a cursed spot.
Kind of seemed like it. It was a classic Louisiana shotgun shack.
Yeah.
But it was in exactly the right place near the university entrance. And thankfully, the realtor, much like the Boilermakers, saw Graves' commitment, believed in him, and offered him a favorable long-term rent agreement, which was absolutely crucial for a cash-strapped entrepreneur just starting out.
And because capital was still incredibly tight, Graves basically acted as his own general contractor, right? His own construction crew.
He did. He did a ton of the renovation work himself just to save money. He jokes that he even did some of the plumbing.
No way.
Which, remarkably, he says, is still functional decades later.
That's amazing.
But doing that work himself, it allowed him to convert that rundown spot into a cool little hangout. But it also, it ensured that the building had his actual physical DNA built into the walls. He wasn't just the owner, he was the builder, too.
Okay, before we jump right into the culture they built, let's just pause on the name for a second, because they almost went a completely different direction.
Oh, yeah.
They almost paid tribute to that whole hard labor phase.
Yeah.
They considered naming the restaurant Sockeyes.
Sockeyes, like the salmon. Sockeye.
Exactly. Referencing the sockeye salmon fishing up in Alaska.
Huh. Well, thankfully, a friend apparently stepped in and quickly advised against that.
Yeah, can you imagine ordering a sockeyes box combo? Doesn't quite roll off the tongue.
Not really. So instead, they opted for something with much more local flavor, naming it after Graves's beloved yellow Labrador, Raising Cane.
Raising Cane. And the name itself is kind of a southern expression, right?
Yeah, Raising Cane means, causing a ruckus, raising hell, making noise. It perfectly fit that youthful, energetic, slightly rebellious culture they were trying to create right from the start.
Okay, so opening day. It was a soft launch, pretty late in the evening, like 9 p.m.
They just told friends, family, spread the word.
And that first late night rush, it just slammed them immediately.
Yeah, the moment the food was out, the drive-thru was apparently backed up down the block. That vision was instantly validated by the very customer base the bank said didn't really exist for this concept.
But the real business confirmation, the, okay, this is actually going to work moment, came after the first full month of operation.
Right. Graves and Sylvie, they sat down, reviewed their first real financial report after paying the crew, paying all the vendors for the chicken and fries and toast, covering the rent.
What was left?
The profit remaining was exactly $30.
$30.
Why?
30.
$30.
Wow. Okay, let's just analyze the psychological weight of that number for a minute. After going to Alaska, risking his life, getting laughed out of banks, pouring blood, sweat, and probably tears into the renovation, the entire culmination of that first month was enough profit for what, maybe 2 cases of beer?
Exactly. On paper, it's a completely ridiculous return for all that effort and risk. But to Graves, it was everything.
How so?
It wasn't about the amount. It wasn't $30,000. It was $30. But it was proof. Proof the model was viable. It meant they could cover their costs. It meant the price point was right. The demand was real. The operational structure actually worked. He celebrated that $30 profit with a beer, apparently, and just declared, this is going to work. That small foundational success, that tiny profit margin, it solidified the path forward for him.
And the culture they built inside that mothership, that first restaurant, that was absolutely crucial too, right? To distinguishing themselves from the competition.
Oh, hugely important. Graves intentionally created a fun environment, high volume, good music playing all the time.
This was a direct response to those unpleasant places he worked in before.
Absolutely. His thinking was, if he could create a happy atmosphere, a place with high pride, it would be infectious. Crew members would actually want to work there, which in the fast food industry is a massive competitive advantage.
Yeah, turnover is usually brutal.
Exactly. So while other restaurants were struggling with high turnover, low morale, Cane's started attracting better, happier staff who were genuinely committed to serving the best possible meal. And that pride, it translates directly into better customer service. You can feel it.
Okay, let's talk about the building itself, the architectural lore of the mothership. Because it's full of these cool kind of accidental details that became core brand identifiers later on.
Yeah, it's a great story. It was this classic Louisiana shotgun shack building, and it had been everything over the years, an arcade, a convenience store, who knows what else.
Okay.
So during the renovation, Graves was literally scraping away layers of history, stripping off cheap, ugly paneling, including, apparently, some rainbow paint left over from its arcade days.
Rainbow paint.
And eventually, he uncovered the original materials underneath. He found these old, dark, reclaimed cypress plank boards, which instantly gave it that classic Louisiana aesthetic he was going for.
And then he found the mural, which he describes almost like a sign from above.
Pretty much. He was chipping through the exterior stucco, and underneath it all, he found this old, faded bread mural from like a 1930s bakery that used to be in that building.
Wow.
He immediately took this as a sign. Historical legitimacy, a connection to quality food from the past. So they decided to replicate that exact design using the original colors and look for the external mural that now really defines the aesthetic of the mothership.
And that design element, you see echoes of it in many Cane's locations today, right?
You do. It became part of the brand identity.
And the disco ball.
Mm-hmm.
You walk into a Raising Cane's today, and you often see a disco ball, or at least a picture of one somewhere. Where did that come from?
That was another fun kind of accidental touch from the mothership renovation. In the space where they had a small skylight, They were initially considering putting in some expensive stained glass,
Yeah.
and someone just suggested, hey, why not put a disco ball up there instead?
Just for fun.
Just for fun.
Yeah.
It was unexpected, it created instant energy, and it signaled that this brand didn't take itself too seriously. Along with that mural and maybe the Velvet Elvis paintings you sometimes see,
Right, the Velvet Elvis.
the disco ball just became another signature element, a simple way to show the brand's personality.
And you can still see the really personal touch on the old bar top at the mothership, right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. The names of the friends who actually helped him build that original location, guys like Royals and Coulard, their names are still there, carved right into the bar. Alongside Graves' own name and the opening date, Graves 8/10/96.
That's amazing.
He couldn't afford to pay them standard construction wages back then, right? But he paid them with a piece of the history, a stake in the memory.
Now, to really understand Graves's mindset during those critical first few years, you have to look at where his corporate office was. It wasn't some fancy downtown suite.
No, definitely not. It was a tiny little apartment right next door to the restaurant.
He rented that specifically. Why?
To maintain, as he put it, an eagle-eyed view of the drive-thru. His dedication was just absolute, total immersion.
Wow.
He actually converted the only bedroom into the office space, and he slept out in the living room on a mattress because staff would be coming in super early, like 7 a.m., to do payroll and other admin tasks right there in the apartment.
And that constant proximity, being right there 24/7, it created this crushing anxiety for him, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. He described this constant mental pressure, just the inability to ever switch off. He said he'd go to sleep and literally wake up hearing the drive-through orders in his dreams, like frantically feeling he should be running downstairs to take orders or drop chicken in the fryer.
Oh man, that's intense.
After a couple of years of living like that, this intense, all-consuming proximity, he realized he just had to move out just to get enough mental distance to function without that constant performance anxiety hanging over him.
But that original office space, which I think they've lovingly recreated somewhere,
Yeah.
it contains the absolute root of his philosophy, right?
Yeah.
Filled with old equipment and motivational quotes.
Yeah. And the most important quote is his own. Nothing ever happens unless someone pursues a vision fanatically.
Fanatically, there's that word again.
It really defines him. And that fanaticism wasn't just, a poster on the wall. It extended directly into the non-negotiable operational standards of the business. This is where the cook-to-order commitment comes in, which is extremely difficult to maintain at scale.
Okay, this is key. We need to dive into the specifics of how they actually maintain that quality.
Yeah.
Because this is what justifies those huge $6.66 million average store sales. Tell us about the product itself and the process.
Okay, so it starts right at the beginning with the input. They receive raw chicken tenders. Nothing is ever frozen.
Never frozen. That's a big deal in fast food.
Huge deal. Then the crew breads the chicken by hand right there on site using a top-quality, specially seasoned flour and a proprietary milk and egg batter.
And this is the exact same process they've used since day one.
Exactly the same. They absolutely refuse to use pre-breaded frozen products, which is, a massive cost saver and operational simplification for pretty much every other major chicken chain out there.
Okay, and the consistency, the freshness is maintained through that commitment that nothing ever sits under a heat lamp.
Exactly. Nothing sits and waits. This requires incredibly disciplined execution from the crew and a pretty intelligent kitchen management system to handle the flow of orders.
So how does that work?
Basically, when you order your box combo, that chicken is only dropped into the fryer when the system dictates that it will be perfectly cooked just as you, the customer, reach the pickup window or the counter.
Wow, that's precise timing.
It ensures maximum freshness, maximum crispness, and that perfect heat that makes it, craveable.
But let's be real here. Implementing cook-to-order perfectly across 900-plus locations, especially during a crazy busy lunch or dinner rush, that has to be a logistical nightmare compared to just scooping pre-cooked frozen fries and pulling pre-made sandwiches off a warming shelf.
Oh, it is a profound operational challenge. There's no question. And that's why the culture, the training, the crew motivate, it all has to be flawless. They are consciously prioritizing that quality over pure raw speed. Although their operational efficiency ensures they are still incredibly fast.
Right.
But Graves is very open about this. He knows that if he switched to a lower quality pre-battered frozen chicken, or if he just allowed food to sit under heat lamps for even a few minutes, he could save immense amounts of money, dramatically increase short-term profit margins.
But that luxury of owning 92% of the company means he doesn't have to chase those short-term margins.
He absolutely does not. That highest quality ingredient, that perfect cook-to-order process, that's his non-negotiable value. He has repeatedly stated that compromising on quality just for the sake of short-term profit is something that will never happen at Raising Cane's as long as he's around. It's a strategic decision deeply rooted in that founder control.
Okay, so after they established the mothership, proved the concept could work for college students late at night. The next big strategic step was proving it could work for everyone else.
Right. They needed to show broader appeal.
So they opened a second location, but strategically placed on the opposite side of the LSU campus.
And the second store, that was the real proof of concept beyond just the college demographic. It was in a more suburban-feeling setting, and it instantly started attracting a totally different crowd. Families driving home from soccer practice, business people coming in during their lunch break, people of all ages.
Okay.
And Graves realized in that moment, okay, this isn't just a fun college haunt. The universal appeal of really good, simple chicken fingers meant, as he put it, this could be everywhere. That was the turning point where he really regained that vision to scale it nationwide.
But this period of realizing massive potential, of rapid expansion, it was immediately followed by something incredibly difficult. What Graves described as one of the hardest things I ever had to do.
Yeah, the fallout with his best friend and business partner, Craig Silvis.
What happened there?
It apparently happened pretty suddenly in Sully's truck. Sylvie just confessed to Graves that, while he really loved the intellectual challenge of starting the business, the planning, the business development side, the actual day-to-day running of the restaurants, the grind, the repetition of cooking chicken and managing crews, it just didn't ignite his passion in the same way.
Wow.
He famously told Graves, "I'm not a fry cook like you." He wanted out. He wanted to pursue his own dream, which was actually in Silicon Valley in tech.
Man.
Yeah.
Given that intense commitment they'd made, the pseudo-blood pact and everything,
Yeah.
that must have been absolutely devastating for Graves.
Oh, emotionally seismic. Yeah. These guys had been best friends since 6th grade, worked side by side through everything, literally risked life and limb together to fund this thing.
Right.
Graves was apparently completely shocked, and he plunged into this really debilitating period of anxiety and self-doubt that lasted for about 30 days.
30 days.
Yeah. He described walking around feeling like he had a helmet on his head or like he was underwater, just questioning everything, wondering if he could even continue the vision without his partner by his side.
But the lesson he ultimately took from that incredibly difficult conversation, it's maybe the most profound leadership takeaway from this whole story.
I think so too. It's the lesson he now shares with business students all the time. Success is completely irrelevant if you aren't passionate about the process of achieving it. Sylvie walked away from a potential multi-billion-dollar stake because he knew, deep down, he wouldn't be happy operating the restaurants day in, day out.
Right.
And Graves recovered his own vision precisely because he was passionate about the chicken, the fries, the sauce, the culture. He realized that ultimate success required his total focused fanaticism. And if Sylvie couldn't share that specific passion, then the split, as painful as it was necessary for both of their long-term happiness.
The financial irony there is just immense, though. Graves bought out his partner, who was only 27 years old at the time, for a generous 6 figures, which seemed like a lot then.
Seemed like a fortune, yeah.
But if Sylvie had remained a 50-50 partner, today his stake would be worth north of $10 billion.
$10 billion. A $10 billion decision based purely on personal passion and fulfillment. It really speaks volumes about the value Graves places on doing what you love, even when you're facing these monumental financial trade-offs.
So following that split, Graves initially grew the business using a pretty standard franchising model, right?
He did, yeah. It allowed him to scale relatively quickly by leveraging other people's capital, other people's banking relationships, get more stores open faster.
But that strategic approach, it didn't actually last very long for Cane's.
No. Over time, he came to this stark, really simple conclusion. We just operated them better.
Meaning the company-owned stores performed better than the franchise ones.
Consistently. And this conviction led to a major strategic shift, moving Raising Cane's away from franchising entirely toward a 100% company-owned restaurant model.
Okay, let's analyze the strategic thinking there. Because franchising is often seen as the fastest, easiest route to scale and generate cash flow. Why move away from it?
Well, franchising offers that rapid capital, yes, but it inherently introduces variability. quality variability, operational variability, cultural variability. When you own 100% of the restaurants yourself, you maintain absolute control over everything.
Like what?
Uniform quality control across every single location, immediate implementation of any new training programs or operational standards, total ownership over the digital infrastructure, the customer data, the supply chain.
Okay.
Graves clearly valued that uncompromising control over the brand experience more than he valued the quick cash injection that franchising offered. It's definitely a move most venture capitalists would probably hate because it slows down that explosive capital growth, but it secures the long-term integrity of the brand.
And he had to buy out all those existing franchisees, but he did it in a pretty strategic way, right? To maintain goodwill.
He did. He apparently offered deals that were significantly higher than the normal market valuation for those franchises at the time.
So they were happy to sell.
Exactly. This generosity ensured the franchisees felt respected, felt like they got a great deal, even as their units were being consolidated back into the parent company. It was a smart move that preserved relationships while centralizing that crucial operational control. And it really set the stage for the massive, consistent scale we see today.
So as the company grew exponentially, now employing, 70,000 crew members across over 900 locations?
Yeah, something like that. Huge numbers.
Graves wisely recognized he couldn't do it all himself anymore. He needed to delegate the day-to-day nuts and bolts.
Right. So in 2017, he brought in a co-CEO, Ajay Kumaran.
Yep.
Kumaran came from a really strong operational background, including running Hard Rock cafes over in the Middle East, a seasoned operator.
And this allowed Graves to do what?
It allowed Graves to step back from the daily firefighting, the operational minutia, and really focus on his core strengths, obsessing over the company culture, motivating that massive base of crew members, and being the lead promoter and visionary for the brand.
And again, we come right back to that private luxury. The fact that Graves still owns 92% of this $22 billion company. That lack of outside investors, VCs, public shareholders, it's the ultimate strategic weapon for him.
It truly is. It gives him the freedom, the luxury, as he calls it, to make what he believes are the right decisions for the long-term health of the brand, without worrying about hitting quarterly earnings targets or answering to Wall Street demands.
Right. There's no pressure to cut corners just to boost the next quarter's profits.
Exactly. He doesn't have that pressure to cut costs by switching to cheaper ingredients or raising prices aggressively just to pad investor profit.
Which means he can keep that quality ridiculously high, and, crucially, he can choose to treat his staff better.
Precisely. He has the freedom to maintain those highest quality ingredients, the non-negotiable, and also to raise crew wages when competitors might be hesitant to do so because of shareholder pressure. That private ownership structure allows the founder's original values to remain the dominant strategic driver, ensuring that the culture and quality that started in that tiny Baton Rouge shack still permeates all 900-plus locations today.
Okay, so how does a $22 billion private empire stay culturally relevant? How do they stay top of mind without just flooding the airwaves with generic, boring ads?
Yeah, it's interesting. Graves apparently maintains a pretty standard marketing budget, around 3 to 4% of sales, but his strategy is intensely focused on authenticity.
Authenticity, how?
Well, he seems to have this sophisticated understanding that modern consumers are just really fatigued with, corporate paid endorsements that feel fake.
Totally. You can spot them a mile away.
Right. So he focuses on building relationships with celebrities who are genuinely, organically fans of the brand already. He calls these true fans Kiniacs.
Kiniacs, I like that.
People who actually grew up loving the brand, who believe in the product, and who often approach him first. He actively avoids just paying big bucks for endorsements from people who aren't really crazy about the product because he realizes consumers see right through that lack of authenticity.
And the ultimate example, the execution of this strategy, has to be the Post Malone deal.
Oh, yeah, that's fascinating. Post Malone apparently reached out simply because he was already obsessed with Raising Cane's. Huge fan.
Okay.
So Graves and Post Malone actually developed a real personal friendship first. It wasn't transactional. And when Post eventually expressed interest in maybe opening some locations, Graves didn't just offer him a standard restrictive franchise deal. He came up with this really ingenious structure that played to both of their strengths.
How did that work?
Well, Graves basically told Post, look, you're not going to be in the back frying chicken, just like I'm not going to be on stage singing.
Right. Stay in your lane.
Exactly. Instead, Post got to be the creative visionary for his own location.
So he got to design them.
Yeah. Graves offered Post the opportunity to design his own restaurants, basically from the ground up, with essentially no budget limit on the creative side, just go wild.
Wow. No budget limit.
And they agreed to simply split the profits from those specific locations. This gave Post Malone genuine creative ownership, a real stake in it, and a financial incentive tied directly to performance, rather than just getting a flat endorsement fee.
And the result was pretty spectacular, right? These
Yeah.
crazy restaurants.
Oh, yeah. These custom locations, like the ones they built in Dallas and Salt Lake City, they are so unique, so over the top. They've literally become destinations in themselves.
What makes them so crazy?
They feature elements that Post personally designed, like walls covered in his own memorabilia,
Yeah.
unique pink color schemes, even like pneumatic tubes shooting ping pong balls around the ceiling.
Ping pong balls, okay.
Just wild stuff. And these places are so special that people are actually scheduling flight layovers in those cities specifically to go visit that Raising Cane's location.
That's incredible. That's cultural tourism for fast food.
Exactly. And it generates massive amounts of earned media, buzz, social sharing, the kind of marketing that money just can't buy.
That focus on organic, genuine connection definitely reinforces brand loyalty way more than, say, a typical $1 million Super Bowl ad ever could.
Absolutely. Consumers today are savvy. They spot paid for shilling immediately. But when a huge superstar like Post Malone is genuinely, visibly obsessed with the product and puts his own creative vision into the physical locations, it just screams authenticity.
Yeah.
It reinforces the idea that this is a quality product that people actually love, not just some generic business transaction.
Graves also leverages his own personal brand pretty effectively too, right?
Mhm.
Famously serving as a guest shark on Shark Tank.
He did, and he used that platform primarily, he says, to promote the Cane's business, yeah, but also to provide mentorship, help other entrepreneurs, and compete for deals on the show that align with his own passions. He actually admits that in that super competitive dynamic of the show, he had to consciously learn how to interrupt the other sharks, which was apparently really contrary to his polite Southern upbringing, but he did it because he was, fanatically committed to battling for the deals he believed in.
It served as another layer of brand promotion, but more personal this time.
Exactly, putting a face and a personality to the brand.
Now, beyond promotion and profits, the sheer scale of the company today allows Graves to pursue a philanthropic vision that is truly enormous.
Yeah, this seems really important to him. He ensures Raising Cane's is deeply embedded in the communities where they operate. They focus a lot on micro-level involvement, sponsoring the local high school glee club fundraiser, supporting local youth sports teams, that kind of thing.
Grassroots stuff.
But the company's size now allows for macro-level impact, too. He points to efforts like donating $1 million for Texas flooding relief back in July 2025 as examples of their increasing capacity to help on a larger scale.
But his ultimate dream, the massive goal, the reason he keeps pushing the company's valuation higher and higher, it seems purely philanthropic at its core.
It really does. His stated dream, which he shares with his family, is to systematically put billions, starting with $1 billion, then $2 billion, $5 billion, eventually $10 billion into a dedicated fund.
$10 billion. For what?
Specifically designated to help people and address massive community needs. He genuinely seems to see the company's continued growth not just as personal wealth accumulation, but as a direct mechanism, a tool to achieve this monumental scale of social impact. He's literally growing the company bigger specifically to achieve this huge philanthropic goal.
That's a powerful motivator. Now, speaking of spending money, but maybe on more fun stuff, one of the most famous anecdotes about Graves involves his treehouse.
Ah, yes, the legendary treehouse.
He was apparently a big fan of that Animal Planet show, Treehouse Masters.
He was, and he commissioned them to build this absolutely spectacular structure on his property in Baton Rouge, maybe about 12 years ago now.
And it wasn't just like a little fort.
Right. Oh, no, it was a substantial project. Cost around $350,000 to $400,000 back then. It's far more than a simple treehouse. It's basically a multi-level home structure built up in the trees. It features Ewok-style rope bridges connecting different sections, several distinct living areas, even a fully functioning bathroom up there.
Wow. In a treehouse.
And true to his style, he insisted on using reclaimed materials. Old cypress wood, pine salvaged from an old sewing factory, even wood recovered directly after Hurricane Katrina hit Louisiana. So he grounded this fun, whimsical structure in Louisiana history and sustainability.
And this fun investment, which was really built for his personal enjoyment, maybe entertaining friends, it ended up yielding this completely accidental, massive marketing return.
An incredible one. The episode of Treehouse Masters that featured Graves building the treehouse and then showed him sitting up there eating Cane's chicken fingers.
Of course he was eating Cane's at it.
naturally. That episode ran in reruns globally for years and years. He estimated that this single personal investment yielded a marketing return equivalent to something like 4 times the original construction cost.
Just from TV reruns.
Yeah. It just proved, again, that authentic, personal connection, even showcasing your hobbies, can sometimes drive the brand more effectively than traditional advertising.
And it now serves as, like, the ultimate cool place to entertain his massive network of celebrity friends, right?
Exactly. It's apparently where he hangs out with people like Shaquille O'Neal, Joe Burrow, Post Malone, Snoop Dogg.
Casual.
Right. He mentioned his strategy is often just to invite these famous friends to, say, an F1 race or a major sporting event, pay for the luxury suite, hang out, have fun, and simply ask them to maybe post a few things on their social media while they're enjoying themselves.
Low cost, high impact.
Very low cost for the potential reach. It results in massive marketing returns that feel totally natural and authentic to their followers.
So looking forward, even with a $22 billion valuation, Graves is still setting these colossal goals. He genuinely sees the best days as being ahead.
He does. They currently have about 900 locations in the U.S., but only around 50 international locations, mostly concentrated in the Middle East right now.
Okay.
His immediate goal is rapid expansion into Europe. He really seems to see the entire world as his ultimate playground now.
And the big vision.
He intends for Raising Cane's to become a top 10 restaurant company globally, full stop. But, crucially, he maintains that even with this incredibly aggressive vision for growth, they will never sacrifice the quality or the culture that got them here in the first place. He really believes his clear vision, his focus, that fanatical commitment, it makes him untouchable. Hashtag outro. So if we try to synthesize this incredible $22 billion success story of Raising Cane's, it really feels rooted in maybe 3 critical elements that Graves kind of developed right from the beginning.
Okay, what are they?
First, just the sheer audacity of his focus, refusing to add variety, even when all the experts, the academics, the bankers were pressuring him to. He understood, intuitively maybe, that simplicity maximizes operational perfection.
Yeah, that laser focus. Okay, what's second?
Second, turning all that rejection into fuel. He consciously used every single no he got from his professor, from every banker, to build that deep chip on his shoulder. And that drove him to endure that brutal hard labor, which ultimately earned him the trust and the capital he needed through just radical self-reliance.
Prove them wrong. And third,
the strategic genius, maybe luck, maybe foresight, of maintaining that 92% ownership. That gives him, the founder, the luxury, as he puts it, to consistently prioritize the culture, the crew satisfaction, and those non-negotiable quality standards. Prioritizing those over the short-term financial demands that so often dilute or compromise competitor brands.
that fanaticism, it really is the whole story, isn't it? Todd Graves bought a cheap suit and a briefcase with brass combo locks to go pitch a dream that earned him a B- on the original plan. If we asked him to score himself now on the ultimate execution of that simple idea, he would absolutely confidently give himself an A+, because he put his heart, his soul, and literally his life on the line for that vision.
He really did. He had the vision, sure, but also the persistence, the grit, and the commitment to culture to scale this incredibly simple concept from one rundown Baton Rouge shack to a $22 billion global empire. And yet his dreams just keep pushing higher, aiming now to be a top 10 global restaurant company and channel billions into philanthropy.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a final thought to maybe mull over. Graves proves that passion, that self-reliance, and maybe a healthy dose of fanaticism. Those are the keys to avoiding burnout and achieving unprecedented scale, even with a seemingly simple idea. So the question becomes, what non-negotiable value are you willing to defend fanatically in your own pursuits, regardless of who tells you your concept is too simple, too complex, or just plain flawed?